What's up, team? Episode number 2 of Rugby Fitness Responses. And because we didn't get quite the uptake this week that we did last week, I'm guessing that's because of the length of last week's video. So I'm going to just skip right past that. What I'm going to do is I'm going to answer the second most popular topic from last week, which was a question from Josh Baldock, who is a rugby player. And the question was essentially, as a player, I want to drop body fat over the next 6 to 8 weeks before my clubs start their kind of pre-season back up again. I'm doing my weight training, I'm doing my barbell complexes, I'm trying to stay in good shape and make off-season gains, but I'd like to drop fat. How best do I do that? Preferably, obviously, using my nutrition, because I feel like my training is pretty much bang on where it needs to be. And I'm guessing, Josh, you want to do that without negatively impacting your performance in the process, in the gym. So I'm going to come at it from that tack. So this is quite a simple question for me to answer, so this should be a much quicker video than last week. From my standpoint, calorie counting and macronutrient counting, and the two are tied together, is the most effective way of achieving that. So first and foremost, let me just explain why I'm not recommending low carbohydrate ketogenic style diets. Now, I am not saying for 1 second that a ketogenic diet is not effective short term for fat loss, because all the literature, or the vast majority of the literature, suggests that it is, and I know from experience that it is. I've used it with clients, I've used that approach myself, and friends of mine have used it going into powerlifting competitions and things to drop weight quickly, and it is effective. But what makes it effective is exactly what makes it, in my opinion, not the ideal approach for a strength athlete trying to drop weight over a period of time. So I won't bore you with the science of a ketogenic diet, but essentially ketogenic diets have been around for a while under many different names and guises. And the premise of them is that you cut your carbohydrates down to a very, very small amount, and you get the vast majority of your calories from proteins and from fats. And this is effective because carbohydrates are such an efficient source of energy. They're the most efficient source of energy that you can ingest. So when your body can't get any carbs to use to fuel itself, it will inevitably turn to other things. And because of some clever physiology with the ketogenic diet, to do with hormone release and other various things, which we don't really have time to talk about now, your body tends to eat into your fat reserves. And therefore, short term, you notice a lot of fat loss on a ketogenic diet. And if you can keep it up, you can notice some really, really, really good fat loss effects from it. Now, as I said, that very fact right there, dropping the carbs down to a very low point, depriving your body of an efficient energy source, is exactly why I would not recommend it in this instance. Because if you're not doing anything, if you're not training particularly hard, and your training level is not what's important to you, but dropping body fat is the most important thing, either for aesthetic reasons or for whatever, then that's fine. You don't need to be massively well fueled, because that's not your goal. But if your goal is to drop body fat and still perform at a very high level in your rugby, you need to maintain strength, you need to maintain speed, you need to maintain conditioning, and more importantly, you need to be able to function properly mentally, because you need the motivation to be getting in the gym 5 times a week in training. When you cut carbs out of your diet almost completely, as you do on a ketogenic diet, you are going to struggle to maintain your strength, to avoid injuries that come with lifting heavy weights, and you are going to struggle mentally to fire yourself up to actually get down the gym, do those HIIT sessions, do those heavy lifting sessions. So my recommendation, as I said earlier, is to count calories and macros and put yourself in a small but consistent calorie deficit. And the best way to do this, in my opinion, the easiest way, the most applicable way for everyone, is to use the If It Fits Your Macros calculator, which you can get on the internet very, very easily, and use that, answer all the various parameters that it would like you to answer, which include your age, your gender, your height, your weight, your lifestyle, your current physical activity levels, and it will calculate for you what is called your TDEE, your total daily energy expenditure. And then what you want to do is you want to take that number and you want to cut it by about 200 to 300 calories per day. Once you have that number, that's your deficit number, that's your fat loss number, then I want you to do the following. I want you to calculate 50% of that number, and that is going to come from carbohydrates. So to help you work that out, every gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. So Work out what 50% of that number is, and then using that calculation, work out how many grams of carbohydrates that would mean for you per day. We want high carbs because we want to, or relatively high carb, because we want you to be performing at a high level. Next thing, 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight. Work out the calories, 4 calories per gram of protein. Work out that. Add that to your 50% of your carbs, so you know how many total calories that will add up to between proteins and carbs. What is left over in your deficit, in your total calorie allowance for the day, can be used from fats. And that's the basic way I would start to do it. That's the most conducive way with high performance in the gym. Lots of protein, lots of carbs, minimal fats, but enough that you're not kind of starving yourself. And there's your start point. Use MyFitnessPal app on your phone with this massive database to do the calorie counting day to day to make sure you're eating what you should be eating. And then start weighing yourself every morning, first thing in the morning. And then what you do is, rather than taking each day at face value, you average out those body weights. And if over the course of a 7-day period that average is coming down, even just by a little bit, then you know that your deficit is slowly but surely working, and there is no need to cut any more calories out of your diet at that point. When you go, say, a week and that average doesn't come down at all, or maybe it even goes up slightly, that is when you then drop another 200 calories, maybe 300, depending on how quickly you need to get to your goal, out of your diet, and then you recalculate everything. So that new number, what is 50% of that in calories? So how many grams of carbs can I have? How many grams of proteins can I have? And then whatever is left over, how many grams of fat can I have? Just as an aside, as I said before, it's 4 calories per gram of protein, 4 calories per gram of carbohydrates. It's 9 calories per gram of fat. So when you're working out your calculations, remember those numbers, okay? So it really is that simple, guys. What you'll notice is it will come down slowly but surely, but what you shouldn't really be suffering from is a negative effect on your numbers in the gym, because the carbs are always going to stay at a certain number that will allow you to be properly fueled for intense exercise. Now, before I leave you, final thing worth noting, even if you use this approach, at some point, if you continue to lose weight and you continue to want to lose more fat and more body weight, you're going to get to a point where your carbohydrates, even if they're 50% of your total calories for the day, are going to start to hover around the 200 grams per day mark or less. I would not recommend, this is purely from experience, ever letting your carbs go below a couple of 100 grams a day if you want to keep your strength levels up. So at that point, I think it's worth asking yourself, how much body fat do you really need to lose to still perform at a high level? So some literature suggests, quite a lot of literature suggests that having some body fat on you is not negating your performance in any way, shape or form, unless you are above, and this is for males, 20% body fat. So if you are anything under 20% body fat, your fat levels probably aren't affecting your performance as much as you think they are, unless you are an elite athlete. Most of us aren't. Most of the people watching this won't be. So you can get away with being anywhere as high as 20%. Optimum levels are anywhere between 10 and 15%. Anything less than 10%, really not necessary. So when you're dropping fat, great. I understand your reasons behind it, but don't let it get to the point where you're still dropping fat when you really don't need to be, so that you're then cutting your calories down to a point that's actually not conducive anymore with the things that really matter with strength-based sports like rugby, which is strength and power and conditioning. So I hope that was useful. I hope that answered the question, Josh. Much shorter than last week's video. As I said before, for next week's video, if you drop your comments in below this video with any questions that you would like answered, and I will answer the most popular question in next Friday's video. I am away in Romania from Sunday until Friday sort of morning, but I will have my phone on me. I will have internet access out there, so I'll be able to check on Facebook day in and day out, and I will hopefully still be able to get a video up by about 5:30 next Friday. So hope you enjoyed the video, guys. Leave those comments in the section below, and we'll see you for next episode next Friday. Until then, take care, be safe, and I'll see you soon.